I bought you roses. I bought you roses and a Hallmark card and chocolate kisses. I'm EMEKA. I'm from Bronx, New York, a student at Trinity, and an R&B artist. So please don't be sad no more, baby. I like the sound of my name coming out your mouth. That is something else, and you don't ever have to be by yourself. What for? When you walked in, God opened the door. When you walked in, I couldn't ask for more. Your face is a shooting star. Never knew I could look so far. I think music is an important part of social movements because there's such an emotional component to it. And I think there's so much, I think it really goes down to the question of the political being personal. And I think too often maybe in like American culture, we have this belief that politics is this sort of thing that's on its own and we shouldn't be emotional about it. But realistically, the policies that we make personally affect people. And I think music becomes a very strong outlet for that. And I think it's also very much like a populist sort of medium, something that everyone can understand. You don't necessarily need theory to get a Beyonce Freedom song with Kendrick Lamar or to understand the emotional impact or the emotional sort of performance that Kendrick Lamar is giving in To Pimp a Butterfly. So I think there's such an emotionally driven engine when it comes to music that really can be politicized. I mean, I would say that hip hop has always was always political, and I think it started in the Bronx, where I'm from, and I think very much so the mode of it was people of color, specifically black and Latino men, really trying to describe and archive their black experience in black communities in America. And so I always thought that hip hop was always a political genre. And I think now hip hop and R&B, like if we look at Chance's album and Solange's album, I think hip hop has always been political, but I think a particular shift that we're seeing today is that it's not just about telling everyone the hardships of the black community under the racist system of America. I think a lot of it now is like self-healing and self-love and self-care, and the music becoming very inward. It's becoming about, we're making music for black people. We're not making music to tell the world that we're suffering. We're making music to heal ourselves. For I guess anyone who knows me, like Frank Ocean is definitely like my favorite. I first heard Channel Orange in high school, and that was when I was coming to terms with my queerness, and I was so astounded to have a public figure who was and I was just really astounded to have a public figure who was a black queer man and was just very openly and honestly had a song about his relationship with another dude. And the song, like Forrest Gump was my favorite song in high school, and I probably performed that song live more times than Frank Ocean probably had. Like, I love that song, and I think it was because it was not about him being queer. It was not about him talking about opening up about being queer. Like, it kind of skipped all those steps, and it was just about him. It was just a beautiful song about his relationship with a guy, and I thought that was just super awesome. For me as an artist, I really want to make queerness feel as normal as anything else. I want to be able to make songs about um, homosexual relationships and it to sound as if I could be talking about anyone. And I think Frank Ocean has always been really great at that, doing it in a brave way that was also just really beautiful. So Frank Ocean is definitely Bay for me. When I was younger, I thought I always wanted to sing, but the reason I even got started singing was because my sister wanted to join a chorus in like elementary school, and my mom didn't want her to stay in after school by herself, so she just told me to join the choir. And I was like, sure. And it wasn't really until getting to college that I realized that music was an outlet that just felt really good to me. I just felt really passionate. I think one thing that's always just been super interesting is that, especially now, 2016, like specifically, we have seen hip hop, R&B, music of Black people become popular music in America, and I think it's super interesting because of the history of America and like what does that mean? Like what does it mean when we have Black culture being extremely popular, but we still also have immense racial oppression and police brutality. So I always thought that was super interesting, and I think for me, I've always just been super weary of how Black artists balance that. Like, how do they balance being a Black person in America, but also creating art that for the most part will be consumed by a white audience, and then how do white audience perceive it and how do Black people perceive it? It's really interesting. Even like thinking of Kanye West, for example, and the way he sort of maneuvers around taking white culture and like merging it with Black culture, and definitely being an artist that a lot of white people love. You know, what does that all mean? And I think for me as an artist, that's definitely something I've been thinking a lot about. But I do think the people I've been loving a lot have been like the Solanges and Chances, who have decided that they're going to make music for their community, and they're going to make healing music for their community. And I think for me, if I can make something that can make anyone anywhere, especially Black queer people, feel as if they're normal and their lives matter, and make a soundtrack, a beautiful soundtrack, the same way that like straight dudes have a soundtrack for like their love affairs. I think that's definitely something I would love to do. I know where I am. I just don't know if I belong here.